Okay, there we go. We are recording. And anybody feel like they have a strong enough memory to give us a quick recap of our, or does it fall on the judge to do so? Must I carry the collective memory of all people?
I need my notebook.
Oh, right.
I could try.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So we're all standing. I might be wrong about some details, but we're all standing kind of at the base of this giant waterfall, sort of a Niagara Falls kind of situation.
Yes.
And we just barely climbed down this. Oh, there it is. We just barely climbed down this treacherous cliff, and some way along the way, Mirren spied some kind of giant creature walking through the mist, and then it disappeared. I think that she just managed to rescue Durbin when he was falling or hanging off the side of the rope that we were using, and I busted my my strange egg into pieces, sadly. Otherwise, we were doing okay until finally we got to the bottom, and Topias took a step backwards and fell off of the last ledge and broke his leg, I think. And we all went down after him, and we were able to I think that it was Paiviki who reoriented his leg, or I don't even know what you call that, shoved his bones back together. And I think Mirren made a splint for him, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And just when we were all down there looking, the big giant creature that seemed to have legs like tentacles or some kind of swooping in its walk passed by, going from I think from the waterfall kind of away, not towards us, and disappeared into the mist again. And when we heard the stories of this creature and its treasure, Paiviki got really excited at getting some of that treasure. But I'm trying to remember where else that's where we stood at that moment. Anybody else?
No, I think I mean, before we got to the cliff, we encountered like a couple of, I just have the drawing, of like rock worms, right? Like from that book. It's like kind of, oh no.
Oh no. Wait, let me stop share. Here we go. Oh, it's so faint.
Oh, it's so faint.
You're gonna have to ink it for us.
I'll have to ink it, yeah. Just like, they were like piles of rocks that were kind of like vaguely crocodile-like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2 days ago. That was the last creatures, the dangerous creatures you encountered. Yeah.
Yeah. And we beefed it. We didn't fight them.
That's right.
We didn't fight them, and then we were like, ooh, treasure, like ancient water giant.
And then did you wait, Jan, did you mention how you guys know that this thing might have treasure?
Oh, so Durbin has heard of this giant, and I'm trying to find my notes that says the giant's name, but I haven't found them yet.
Well, I may have changed the giant's name. So
what?
Don't get too attached. The giant's name is Nadi Patesaha.
Okay.
But you can just call him in the Venati language. That means River King.
Yeah, and Durbin tells a story of Bashnik, the Venati scoundrel who was so slippery and sneaky that he managed to steal the treasure of Nadi Patai Saha.
Yeah, apparently Bajnik was able to get out of there with a shiny rock the size of his head. That's what Durbin tells you.
Wow. And the legend goes that the River King will drown you. So watch out.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So there we are. The air is filled with mist. The waterfall is not deafeningly loud, but pretty loud enough where you have to sort of raise your voices to be heard when you're close by. It's a rocky, if you look at the sort of left side of this picture, and if you picture this tiered waterfall going up like 4 or 5 more times above the top of this image. Mm-hmm. And you guys descended over on the left side here. Now you're apparently you're at the lowest point where this water now becomes a river again and flows away. So the area around you is rocky. In between the rocks is river mud, lots of vegetation, and you're all basically soaking wet from the mist from the waterfalls. And further away from the river, as you can see, it starts to become sort of dense woods.
Are we at one side of the river?
Yes. Yeah, you descended along basically the edge of the waterfall, and that has ended you up on one shore of the river.
Are there woods on both sides?
You can't see the other side of the river from here.
Oh, okay.
Too misty.
And do we know how far we are from what's it called, Salt Cliff?
By your original estimate, Durbin, this is the first time Durbin is even gotten to a point where he's heard of this place. So he's never been here. But he's heard the story of Bajnik and how Bajnik came to this place. And according to Durbin, it might be another 2 or 3 days. So, Topias is, sort of sitting on a rock with his leg braced. Maren has finished fashioning the splint, and it's going to be hard for him to move without at least one person helping, especially in this very treacherous, slippery, rocky shore that you're on.
So we have Durbin and Anika, mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
Topias and us.
If we're really going to go in, do we want to take Durbin with us? Like, is there any reason that his knowledge of this folk tale quotation marks, could be of use, or do you think we should just leave like Anika and Durbin and Topias to take a break?
Paiviki is torn because she feels responsible for not taking care of Topias and letting him fall. I think that she's kind of looking back over, kind of seeing if she can see any kind of cave entrance or glinting treasure. But she says, I think maybe we should, I hate to say this, but come back another time.
we might never be able to find our way back here. You see how thick these mists are, and I'm a good tracker, but I don't know if I could find this place again.
We just follow the river up. We can leave landmarks. Leave marks for ourselves to follow.
But imagine what a prize it would be to bring to Durban's people great treasure. Certainly we would ingratiate ourselves to them, especially if we're potentially looking to make them long-term allies of our village. Bringing back just one lost, what's Durban's occupation?
He's a woodcutter.
Okay, one resident woodcutter might not be enough to sway them.
We do have the tree that we brought as a token of good faith from our village as well. But how do you propose that we find the cave?
We search stealthily between Muirin and myself. Wait, no, Muirin's not the trapper. That was SIE's. But between the three of us, we certainly can be stealthy enough to find the cave entrance. I mean, if the cave is the home of the beast, it's got to have a big entrance, right? It's got to have a King Kong-sized door. What do you think, Muirin?
Oh, it's tricky. I would also be interested in finding this treasure, but I worry that we'd need someone with Durban's understanding of the folklore, and he seems unwilling to take this risk with us. Maybe it is a better idea to just try to help Topias make it back to Saltcliffe, and once we tell them the story of how we defeated that sorcerer, they'll be convinced of coming back here with us and helping us find the River King's treasure. I'm sure someone will be impressed by it.
I've no doubt that our deeds and Hyviki's great feat of strength and courage, will land on amazed ears. But I won't push it any further. For it's a task I definitely do not think I could do alone.
Annika says, well, this fellow Bajnik seems to have done it on his own.
Well, maybe we can convince
that's more a dig at me, yeah.
But maybe Durban could stay here with Topias. I just don't want him to be alone.
Durban or Topias? 100%. Yeah, I would leave Topias, and I would leave Annika to watch Durban and Durban to watch Topias.
There is no way that I am sitting on the side of this river while you go looking for treasure in a waterfall. Taimi, you know me better than that.
I know. Well, I'll say it one more time. I think that there is no guarantee that we could find this place again. A place of myth and legend. If it was so easy to find, it would have been found already. If one thief could do it, then 50 thieves would hear the siren call. Or no, there's no sirens.
Well, there's the sirens, like the creatures that sing to attract you to them, right?
Yeah, different kind of siren.
Myth, there's a siren.
Yeah. There would be 50 thieves that would have heard the sirens call and come seeking their fortune.
I'm afraid that the reason that more people haven't come and gotten the treasure is that too many of them have died trying. Did you see the size of that thing?
No.
We got a glimpse of. Did we catch a glimpse of it, or
like shapes moving through the mist, and you would estimate that compared to the Muirin saw it through the mist when you guys were up on the cliff, and then down on the ground you saw a very vague shape move through, and Muirin would estimate that maybe it's about 60 feet tall.
Wow.
So it's like a mountain moving almost, or
It's a very you got a distinct sort of head and shoulders kind of shape. Not humanoid, not human, but like there was a head and shouldery shape, and then as Jan mentioned, the limbs had kind of a kind of fluid, kind of sinuous way of moving, and it made a weird like kind of sound.
perhaps in Saltwall there's some clue to a way that we can make our way past the River King. Maybe there's a story or a legend we can learn.
Maybe. I'm going to leave it at that.
So it seems like the I think Annika and Taimi are wanna do something now, and then Topias is whatever Paiviki wants to do. So it sounds like Muirin and Paiviki are both like want to exercise some discretion here.
I think so, although her traits are bold and covetous, but I'm not playing into them very well.
You're allowed. You're also highly intelligent. You don't.
Highly intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm convinced in this situation that we'll probably die.
Yeah. That's yeah. You can
Yeah.
act against your traits. That's totally fine. Oh yeah, I forgot. So with Topias injured, actually, it's gonna be slower going.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think about.
Does he need to be like literally carried?
No, he just needs at least one person to put an arm around their shoulder, and that person can sort of help him along. But it's like, it's not as fast as usual marching pace, so it'll delay your journey. I mean, if it was 2 or 3 days before, it might be more like 4 or 5 days with Topias injured.
Tiny, let's leave a mark for ourselves so that if we can find this place again, we can see the direction that the River King walked. And so Paiviki gets like a bunch of river stones and kind of puts them in a straight line along the bank, pointing in the direction that we saw the River King move from there to there.
Okay.
Aiming at that spot where he was coming from.
Where he was coming from. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And what way would that be on the picture?
He was sort of walking, actually almost at an angle, like his path is almost the bottommost edge of this picture, right? So like at an angle from somewhere near more towards the middle of the waterfall. In terms of the total width of this waterfall, this is probably a quarter of how wide the waterfall is.
Oh wow.
So, and he was walking at an angle from somewhere near the middle of that, downstream. So not directly away from the waterfall, but a little bit at an angle. So you line those rocks up, basically aiming, pointing at the waterfall, but towards what you would guess would be the middle of the river, where the waterfall hits it.
If he came from his lair, then we might be able to find it again. Let's get going.
Let's get going. Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah. So I think for now, Viveki would just pick Topias up.
And like piggyback?
Yeah.
And then put your backpack on your front?
Sure. Yeah, or give it to somebody else or something. I don't know. I think we need to get to like a more level ground before. And if we just snapped his leg back into place, he's not going to be able to do any walking.
He's got one good, yeah, right. So you can move faster for sure if you've got him on your back. And you got strength 15. Yeah, and he's not a big guy. So
what is his weight in game mechanics terms?
His weight would be, what's Pybeki's capacity?
11.
I think his weight would be 5.
How is your capacity 11? How do I figure my capacity then? Because
your capacity is strength. Your strength modifier plus 10.
Okay. Yeah, then mine's 11 as well. I don't know why I have such a high number here.
You might have just added strength itself as opposed to the modifier.
Jason, I would think that, just off the top of my head, that his weight would be more like 10 or something like that. Because then like an average, or maybe 8, because then the average person would be loaded down. I don't know.
He's got all the stuff he's carrying too, right?
Oh, right.
So he'd be even heavier. So you're absolutely right. How much weight does he have in his pack right now?
Well, I gave him a week's worth of food and some of my other crap. What did I give him? I gave him a hatchet.
Yeah. Oh, so he's basically got a week's worth of food in his pack. That's one. So we'll call it, I think with him in his pack, we'll call it 9 weight.
Okay.
I think you're right. That makes a lot more sense.
Well,
So
we could
I could carry him. I would just be at a -1 to roll. So.
Sorry.
Can someone take his pack though from him?
Sure.
So that.
No, I could carry everything. I would just I would have a hard time fighting while I had him on my back. But that's all right.
Okay, so that rearrangement is made. And you said you wanted to head towards level ground. Where do you think you might be able to find that? Looking off into the mist now, looking downstream, it's rocky, some large rock formations and then like piles of river stones. And then the ground kind of appears to slope gradually up towards the tree cover as you're facing downstream off to your right. So Paiviki, what do you think? Or maybe Muirin, because Muirin's kind of our sort of scout leader, right?
So we're not actually at the bottom of the waterfall?
No, you're
We're
at the
not
bottom of the
Oh,
waterfall.
we are.
And from here, the river sort of flows away from you, away from the waterfall. And alongside the river is very rocky, uneven ground. And then if you moved away from the river to the right as you're facing downstream, the ground kind of slopes up towards dense tree cover.
Maybe we should go away from the river so the River King doesn't catch us by surprise.
It's a good idea.
So like directly away, like straight, like orthogonal to the river?
Yeah, up into the woods a little bit,
Okay.
and then probably he won't be able to see us under the trees.
So seek shelter in the tree cover, and then, all right, well is everybody agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that takes a little doing, slippery rocks. Paiviki has to watch her step as she steps across the rough terrain. When you get up towards the trees, the rocky ground gives way to pretty thick brush, and there's lots of deadfall, lots of downed trees and branches that you have to kind of like push your way through, scrabble up some slippery, rocky slopes, and then you find yourself in a pretty dense, deciduous forest, and the sound of the waterfall diminishes so that you can use more normal speaking voices. I think Muirin is the first one to kind of get up out of the river depression and into, and there's a moment where you sort of climb over a huge fallen tree, and there's like a burst of motion and activity as like a flock of birds kind of takes flight and disappears toward the treetops, and then everybody's up in there. So now you're up in these woods, and you can hear the river in the distance. There's all kinds of bird life. They're just like the air is filled with with various calls of birds and woodland animals. So where to from here?
Oh, what time of day is it? Is it camping time or is it still walking time?
Oh, it's let's see, the last time you guys camped, going down this waterfall was roughly midday. Didn't take that long, but there was the recovery. It's like late afternoon. The sky's not growing dark yet.
Well, then let's keep pushing on then.
Yeah.
Okay. So headed in what you headed downstream, because that's the direction. This is all. You remember, this is all the little river that flows by your hometown. It's just a lot bigger now. And you know that in theory, the little river will carry all the way down towards Saltwall. So, as long as you sort of roughly follow its course, you should find yourself there. Okay, so we're gonna roll for the last third of the day before nightfall, moving through these woods. So, setting out. This is Muirin's gonna roll this, and you guys are in dangerous territory. So this is no modifier, and it's a 2d6 roll.
Okay. Let's see. shit. 4.
Okay.
Oof. Yikes.
Let's see here. Gotta find my. Okay. And would you roll a d6, please? Six?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're about an hour away from that. So making your way through the woods, you can hear the river occasionally. I guess you're kind of moving somewhat close to the tree line. So you can keep an eye on the, basically near open air, so you can see the river away from the waterfall. The mist has diminished, and now there's a little bit of mist around the river itself, but you're able to see pretty clearly up here. And you hear Muirin, you hear a and you move closer to the edge of the trees and climb up on a mossy rock to peer down towards this sound. And in the river, let's see if I can, I think I have to stop share. All right.
We're screwed.
This is what you see.
Whoa.
That's what you rolled. There he is. And he's sort of like slowly, very slowly, sort of walking. Actually, as he moves through the river, you don't hear a lot of noise. He moves sort of quietly through the river. And, all 6 of those eyes kind of blink intermittently. And he bends down slowly and reaches into the water with these tendril-like limbs and kind of feels around, and then pulls up a rock, a river stone, probably about the size of a person. This big hunk of rock he just pulls dripping up out of the water, holds it up to his face, and all 6 of his eyes kind of look at this rock, and he reaches up with one of his other limbs and kind of wipes it off and inspects it, and then throws it over his shoulder. And it goes, and then you hear it as it sort of crashes into the woods on the other side of the river. And then he sort of continues to stalk in that area. He's stalking over towards your side of the river, looking around. Everybody else is behind you. You're the only person that has seen him at this point. But everybody else could hear him.
Did you say we were an hour away from where we started?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So he's close to us.
He's been apparently moving downstream along with you, although it may have taken him much less time to get this far.
How big is the core of his body? Like tentacles to shoulders, or base of the tentacles to shoulders?
From the surface of the water to his shoulders?
No, where his tentacles meet the torso.
Oh,
how big is his torso?
How big is his torso?
His center chunk.
That's about a 25 foot tall and 12 or 15 feet in diameter.
All right.
Like a house.
Yeah, pretty much like a 4-story house, but like a tower.
House
It's
with,
like a tower.
house with legs.
House with legs. So he's kind of slowly stalking towards your side of the river.
We'll definitely signal everyone and as quickly and quietly let them know that we're being followed.
I don't know if you're. I wouldn't say you're necessarily being followed. You mean he's coming your way? Is that what you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, coming our way.
He hasn't seen you. You know that.
Oh, we know that he hasn't seen us.
You know that.
But he
You
hasn't
can
detected
tell.
us as a party.
Yeah, he hasn't seen. He was like looking at his rock. He's just kind of like walking around. The only danger is he's now walking in your direction, but not. You can tell because it's very obvious to you that you're still hidden from him. But he is coming in your direction.
Okay, that's good news.
And so before you, you go to warn everyone, and the last thing you see before you kind of leave the edge of the trees is you notice a number of large shapes in the water kind of swimming around his knees, basically. You would guess there's some kind of amphibious creature, and each one of them is about the size of a person, a human. And they're, but you only get these little glimpses of these shapes moving around his, where his legs meet the water.
Wow.
So you notice that, and then you quickly tell everybody to stay away from the edge of the river. And then you guys want to sort of cautiously continue on your way? Or is time
Right.
this time you feel the thrill of the hunt?
I do feel the thrill of the hunt, and even with a 7 intelligence, I know when to like pick my battles. It's sobering. It's sobering to see it all in a more defined sense. I will venture a look. I'll go to like the edge, and look behind a tree or like peek over a brush because I want to see it. I want to see it with my own eyes.
And Annika comes with you.
And Paiviki too.
Everybody wants to get a look. So Tapias and Durbin is like, saying the name of the thing, like, and then Mirren has to get him to be quiet, and he can't believe that that the stories are true. So yeah, you guys all make your way over and sort of peer out, and he's at the near bank, and he's reaching. So I'm gonna say you're probably 50 yards up the rocky, muddy slope, and you're at the tree line, and he is sort of right at the shore, and he's reaching down, and his tendrily hands are sort of feeling their way amongst the rocks and the mud, like sort of squirming in between them, and then he'll like grab a big rock and kind of turn it over, and then bow down very slowly with his eyes wide and kind of inspect the place where the rock was. So you can see that he's sort of, it's not methodical, but he'll like feel around or look around until he sees something worth inspecting, and then sort of turn it over. And when he turns over one of these big rocks and it lands on another one, it's like a cracking noise. And up close, now you can get a better look at offshore. Now that he's in the shallow waters, the creatures that were around him are now sort of lurking a little bit offshore, and they resemble, they're sort of submerged up to their eyes, but they're, you guys don't know what alligators or crocodiles are, but they resemble those. And they have a very distinctive, Taimi notices a very distinctive white diamond pattern on their backs.
I judge from just like knowing the natural world that there must be some benefit that these creatures must either or feast off of whatever this thing eats as leftovers, or it's rocket when it pulls up the rocks, it's uncovering something that's beneficial to these creatures. They've got to have some sort of symbiosis. But it looks like it's looking for something, and I bet you anything it's treasure. I bet this is how you find a shiny rock as big as a man's head.
And let's see who's got the lowest luck. Muirin, did you return to look, or are you back with Durbin and Tapias?
I do. I think I want to look because I think it's possible that I know what alligators are, but these might be different than what I've seen in my history.
Yeah, I think that if you've never been down this way before, and I don't think you have, right? Like,
right.
You haven't gone south before. Yeah, these are just some kind of big water lizard. I say alligator or crocodile just as a point of comparison, but their heads are shaped differently, and they're kind of fatter around the middle. But that's the kind of creature we're looking at here. And you need to make a luck roll.
Okay, so +0.
Yeah.
Okay, 10.
Okay. The creature's attention is not drawn towards you guys for any reason.
Awesome.
Just like a nature program.
Here we see the River King.
This is all like really good data. Like I wonder what it does when it finds something that it's interested in, whether it goes straight back or whether it keeps searching. Like I think this thing might actually be pretty easy to like fool with a bunch of shiny rocks that we paint, I'm stalking that in my head.
Yeah.
Thinking like a tracker or a hunter.
Yeah, because and I whisper as much to Taimi, like, I think you were right. If that thing was blocking the end of a cave, it would be bad news bizarros.
Yeah. So retreat and continue on till nightfall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would potentially just watch and see where he goes.
Okay, you want to?
I mean, I just probably wouldn't want to start walking while he was facing in our direction.
Okay, so don't move yet, but just observe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, okay. So there's a movement to move back, and Paiviki encourages everyone to stay put and to not draw any unwanted attention. And he sort of after inspecting some rocks, he picks up a sort of rotten log and tosses that aside, and then he kind of sort of sits down. He sort of crouches, I should say, and then with his arms kind of sort of pushes himself away from the shore and sinks into the water so that it's just the upper part of his head and shoulders showing. And his limbs are kind of floating on the water, and the creatures are kind of swimming around him. And one of them actually lurches up out of the water and climbs onto his head, essentially. And you see this big gray dripping lizard just kind of sitting on him, and he reaches up with one of his tendrils and kind of strokes it, and then sort of turns away from you till he's facing downstream. So just his sort of his eyes are visible above the water level, and then he just with his arms all out, like so many wet vines in the water, he just starts to slowly let the current take him downstream. Starts to drift downstream with the lizard on his head.
I mean, once he passes, we should probably move like perpendicular to the river to give ourselves like a bigger buffer, and then just keep following it, because that's going to eventually take us to Salt Cliff.
Okay.
Salt Cliff.
Salt Wall.
Sounds good.
Okay, so another couple hours traveling through the woods, and it's time to set up camp at nightfall. Let me mark where you are on the map here. Actually, you've emerged from the woods, and you find yourself in sort of rolling, rocky grassland. You're a good distance away. You can see the river off to your left as the sky is darkening, but it's kind of more open terrain here. Do you want to camp sort of within the tree cover, or get another hour of marching in before you camp in the grasslands?
Do the grasslands look like the same terrain that we encountered those rock lizards? Or
It's not.
last night?
That terrain was like they're very dramatic, hills and mountains, almost mountains, not quite mountains, but like large kind of rocky hills. This is much lower, more worn down landscape. So there's no rise over like 10 feet high here. It's much lower, and so it's not the same landscape. It's more grassy, and it's wetter in general, so it feels like a different kind of place. But
Yeah.
who knows if the rockworms come this far.
Let's just not camp next to a pile of rocks again, okay?
So camp in the open. Any feelings, Taimi? What's your hunter's call here?
Yeah, it's going to be harder. I mean, except for camouflage things like a pile of rocks. That's actually a worm lizard thing. It's going to be harder for stuff to sneak up on us in the open.
Okay.
So maybe wherever we go, we can just kind of like, I don't know, poke at the ground, just to make sure we're not on some sort of like large ground camouflaged worm.
Now you're suspicious of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you found a campsite, inspect it for camouflage creatures, and find nothing. And it's going to be, because it's still it's sort of early spring. The night's going to be relatively chilly, and everybody's kind of soaking wet now. So if you didn't want to, everybody is going to suffer some ability point damage unless you build a fire. So are you cool with building a fire?
I'm cool with building a fire.
How far are we from this river? Like, you can still see it, right?
Yeah, well, it's getting dark, but yeah, you could see it's probably, I mean, Paiviki's going to guess it is half a mile away. You can just see the edge of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder about this creature's habits. We've seen it walking through waterfall, walking through a river, floating downstream. It seems possible that it's large enough that it could come walking up here too. If we do make a fire, we should stay alert all night and keep watch for moving mountains and houses on legs.
And you could probably find it. You can find a spot where there's like a depression or something where the fire itself would not be visible from the river.
Sure.
And then it would just be a question of maybe smelling smoke or some other indication. So
yeah.
So be vigilant.
And ready to run.
Okay. Everybody needs to eat a ration. So that is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rations have to be consumed. So each of you mark one of your own, and then I think we're having Paiviki track Topias, or is Paiviki handling all the extra food for the hangers on?
I did before. I think I'm down to, if I feed me and Topias, I'm down to 5 food.
Okay.
How about the rest of you guys?
Yeah, I can feed Annika.
Okay.
You only have 3 left?
Yeah, I do.
Moirin, you both each have 3 food?
I have 4.
Is that after feeding yourself?
Yes.
And Durbin?
Oh, I have to feed Durbin.
Somebody should be Durbin. Durbin needs to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, 3.
I was trying to remember if we had given those guys any food or to carry, or there was.
I recall we did, because we all stocked up.
Yeah. I don't have notes about that though.
No, me neither.
Wait, about whether what?
Whether they were all carrying their own food from the village.
No, you decided to load them up with, they were not carrying their own food.
Okay. So, I mean, we'll just make it into Salt Wall hungry.
Well,
Or-
also, you
or
have
we
a
can-
hunter. You have a hunter with you.
Yeah,
and,
we could do some foraging.
game may be plentiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna spend the night. Here it is. Would anybody? Let's see. Anybody like to keep company? Anybody have an urge to converse with any fellow travelers?
Not tonight.
Donna? Do you have any thoughts?
I'd like to check in with Topias that he's feeling well enough to keep going.
That is okay. Yeah. Do you have any bonds with him yet?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, Max is squeaking.
Yeah, I hear Max. It's a creature of the grasslands. Roll 2d6 to see how that conversation goes.
And then +0 is 9.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's sort of he's totally he's exhausted, but he is totally game. He's not willing to let on he's not complaining at all, and he feels like he can totally, do it. He's confident that he feels if anything like a burden. He feels like he was stupid and he shouldn't have done that thing. So would you, in that situation, would you try to ease his mind a little bit and make him feel less guilty, or would you sort of underline the fact that maybe he was inattentive and could have done a better job of taking care of himself? How would Muirin handle that?
She would encourage him not to focus on beating himself up, and yeah, maybe I'll share with him a story about how I have also hurt myself in as a young adventurer.
Okay. So you can have, would you like to take a bond with him? Like where you write his name down and draw a circle on your character sheet? Okay.
Yeah.
So that allows you to give extra help when you're helping Topias in the future.
So that was a positive exchange.
Yes, that was a positive exchange. You could either have a bond with him or he could have a bond with you. Like he could have a mark that would allow him to help you, or you could help him in the future.
Okay, I'll take the circle.
Great. All right, and then we're going to pass the night, settling into sleep. Taimi, would you please roll 2d6 and with a modifier of 0?
11.
Night passes without incident, and everyone gets restful sleep. So you wake up in the morning, and you had a fire, so nobody took damage from that. Is anybody injured at all? Is anybody low on points or missing any points?
No.
Everybody's in perfect health except for poor Topias.
Yeah.
So let's put our thinking brains on. If we were maybe 2 days away when we were at the waterfall, we're not that far from the waterfall, and with someone not in good health, we're maybe looking at 3 days,
Possibly 4. Yeah.
possibly 4.
Yeah.
We're not going to make it on the food that we have, and we don't know what's ahead of us. Our path might take us into someplace pretty inhospitable. What do people think about giving Topias a day to rest and for a couple of us to forage some food?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Great. So a day of camping out here in the grasslands. Awesome. Taimi, I assume you're going to be head hunter.
Yes. All right, I can.
And is anybody else going to be in your hunting party?
I want to show off for Annika.
Like I have Annika actually present while you're.
Yeah.
Great.
And
yeah.
But there's nothing here under Forge that says that multiple people can't do it and still reap the rewards, right?
They would just add one. She'd be helping you hunt.
Yeah, but then
you could have separate hunting parties if you wanted to.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but for every person or just one person to get that bonus?
Every group, like if you go out with Annika would give you +1 to your roll.
Yeah.
And you guys would count as one hunting party, or Annika could go out separately from you and hunt on her own.
Yeah.
So
Be two
John,
separate roles.
from experience, in our last adventure, when we went all off hunting, like many roles in Freebooters, the danger is that you fail a roll, and then you end up with some mishap or danger that could be bad. So that's the trade-off, I think, with multiple parties. Is if
got it.
in some ways it's better to send out experienced people, I would think, than having everybody scatter and look for mushrooms. Although we could get more food that way,
Right.
but there's a higher chance that the River King will grab us, or somebody will break their leg, or that kind of thing. So
okay, well then whoever else wants to join the party is totally welcome to join.
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't split up. I'm just saying that would be the danger involved.
Got it.
I can tell you, just looking at the numbers, Taimi with a +3 dex and with Annika helping would give you a +4, and that's the max modifier that you can have. So you could have more people in your party, and that would be backup in case something bad happened. But in terms of maximizing your potential return, just the two of you will do a good job.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I should say, in terms of minimizing risk, just the two of you would any more people would not help you minimize risk unless they were backup if something went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. In case something happens. Yeah. I also have an animal snare, and so I would get an extra D4 on rations.
You would get that just for having your bow and arrow.
Oh, that counts as gear to hunt or trap. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, what wouldn't count then? Like a knife.
Well, hunt. You can just try to catch animals or jury rig traps or whatever. It's just specific hunting gear. Yeah.
Got it.
But that's a very good question. Okay, so that's going to happen. Is any other what other activities during the day would Paiviki and Murin get up to?
Do you want to hunt or gather, or do you want to do something else?
Work on your Murin. Would you work on your poison? Are you still working on your poison? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes. I finished the one that we previously made.
Oh, you did. Okay.
The ETH somewhat, but could I look for a different type of thing? Maybe it.
Interesting. Let's hear it.
Well, what if there was a substance that has more of a numbing effect?
Okay.
It affects the nerves of
like actually paralyzing or just reducing nerve function? Just numbing. You mean for like pain?
Yeah.
Painkiller?
I mean paralyzing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what ingredients that you found in nature would you need to make something like that?
I think there might be certain green plants that have a chemical that when ingested like affects nerve function.
Okay.
Maybe in like your extremities.
Okay.
And I'm seeing if there's any similar type of plant.
Well, it would have to be probably the same plant.
The same plant.
Which could very well grow here as it does elsewhere, as you've discovered it. So you have to extract something from this plant, the essence of this plant, in order to make this paralyzing poison.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so I have supplies, right? But I don't have this actual ingredient. When it means supplies, that's a different thing from the actual ingredients, or is that?
No, it's the actual ingredients to make the thing. So you only had supplies before to make that lethal poison that you were making before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now you have to basically find the supplies. You have to forage for supplies for this thing you're talking about. But first we have to figure out how much of that what you just said is true. So you're going to establish that. So that is roll plus intelligence.
Oh. So I'm looking at my modifier. 0. 7.
Okay. So yeah, this thing that you're imagining does, I'm not saying it exists in this, actually, no, I'm going to say that as you were traveling through the forest, you did notice this plant. It takes some time to properly kind of pull it up by the roots, and the thing that you have to get out of it has to be boiled out of it. So you need something to boil it in. And then I guess the complication is you need a second ingredient, which is found in snails that, like river snails.
Oh.
The kind of super stinky fist size river snails that populate some of the waterways that you've traveled. So this particular toxin requires both the juice of this green plant, which needs a good name. We'll call it spinewort. And it needs to be boiled with some crushed river snails. And there is a river right over there, and there is the woods, and you did see the plant. So a day of collecting ingredients, if you're successful doing that, you by the end of the day, or if you're really successful, you could maybe have them by midday and start your project.
Cool.
If you want to do that.
I would definitely spend the time looking for those things.
And let's call the poison, unless you have a name, we'll call this particular, is this like an elvish thing, or is this something that,
Yes.
it is? So how does Lockfinger sound as a name for this poison?
I like it.
Okay, Paiviki, what are you going to do?
Well, I was thinking about reading. I have all these books I have to catch up on. But it makes me nervous thinking about Moirin going down to the river by herself.
Oops.
And what could happen. So I might have to put off reading my books for another day. So I think Paiviki is going to kind of follow along with Moirin, and whenever Moirin stops to do something that takes a while, she's going to take her book out and try to double read it.
Okay, great.
Just to make sure that somebody's around if something bad happens.
Okay, so you're just being backup for Moirin.
Yeah.
Great.
Is that all right?
That is so thoughtful. She appreciates the extra attention.
Great. Okay, and then so Durbin and Topias will hang out by the campfire there. So let's roll some dice. John, let's see how your hunting expedition goes.
All right, I got my 2d6, and I'm adding Dex plus the 1 for helping. That's 11.
Roll 2d4 to see how much food you bring back.
2.
So 4 rations.
I'm going to keep 2 and give 1 to each of you.
All right, thanks.
Great.
And we're going to say that takes the form of a you find a herd of sort of like antelope-like creatures. They're small. There's a kind of deer I'm thinking. Anyway, it's like a small deer with little multi-pronged horns, and you impress Annika by perfectly, just hit it perfectly through the heart. And you guys return to camp with the animal all trimmed and cleaned and ready to cook. So Durbin and Topias are excited to see some fresh meat, because you guys have just been eating preserved stuff for several days now.
Yeah. I mean, big picture, like if that takes a whole day, that's not even enough. 4 rations doesn't even feed us for the day. We're down rations.
Yeah. That's true.
But up with poison.
Yes. So when the ration seller comes through,
live on food alone.
The ration seller comes through.
We can get them.
Yeah, I might increase the ration quantity. Taking that under consideration, thinking about you guys going hunting and bringing back an animal and how much it takes to feed, that many people. It seems like you could potentially have more food than that.
I mean, but the thing is that, like, with bringing 4 rations back for a normal 4-person party, that would have been enough for the day.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, spending the whole day doing it seems.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems like you'll never get ahead of yourself.
Right. And there's a lot of meat on an animal.
Yeah, that was an average roll. Like, that was 2 twos.
Unless we did split up, like if 4, if we had 2 or 3
Right.
parties collecting.
Yeah, but I mean, you're totally right about the risk being there. Like an incident, that could be anything. That could be like a guy that throws hammers that are on fire. Like
It could be.
that's in the tables, right?
The guy that throws hammers on fire. Yeah. I mean, the other thing to take into account is that you are an expert hunter and you had help and you got the maximum possible roll modifier. So it might make sense to adjust those numbers to bring back more.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with that for now.
Yeah. Also, and like this is maybe discussion for the end, but like I would not be opposed to like some sort of move having to do with hunting, like a fighter move.
Oh, Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I think, and I don't know if you have general moves. Is that something that you mess? I know you have
Well,
get a move from another playbook.
There's no, I'm trying to keep it to the 4 and I'm not trying to get too specific about like background stuff should come from your character's background and you can do things that other people can't because you are a hunter. So it doesn't get into the actual specific mechanical things that are different, but I'd certainly be interested in hearing ideas about that because there's going to be an advanced book that could have stuff like that, like an insert that could go in your playbook that would have, more general moves.
Yeah, well, let's put a pin in that for the end of the session.
Okay, great. And then let's roll for collecting these ingredients. Donna, Paviki doesn't really have the knowledge to help look for this stuff, but Paviki's there just in case stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, I'm not helping.
Oh, but you have a high-ish intelligence, don't you? No.
Oh yeah, I am helping to keep you safe. So if the roll goes wrong, maybe she would be helping in that sense.
So in this case, wherein you're...
Can I use my wisdom to find them?
Yes, you can actually. Yes, that's
For my dex.
to intuit the best spots. Well, you're not going to stealthily creep up on some plants and snails, so I think your best bet is wisdom to do that. So go ahead and roll wisdom.
$5.
Oh.
Oh no, Paviki. This was a huge mistake. Maybe
This was a huge mistake. So mark wisdom. First of all, mark wisdom.
Wait, is that
Okay,
plus
I can't.
1 for Paviki helping?
Paviki's not really. Paviki's just back. Well, yeah, even with the +1, that would just be a 6.
But then with a point of luck, you could bump it up.
Couldn't I use 2 luck?
No. You can only ever burn 1 luck.
Oh.
You never. So it is true that. So now thinking again about Paviki helping, I guess in this case, helping would be avoiding this negative outcome, and Paviki's presence could help do that. So I will give you that. So that would bump it to a 6, and if you wanted to spend a point of luck, you could bump it to a 7.
I have another question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So Donna has taken poison as her expertise.
Yes.
Right.
Also, did you take the skill Poison Master or whatever?
The advanced move.
Poisoner?
Yep.
Yeah, that is the poison expertise, I think.
No. You have an expertise. You have an expertise in poison, but then you also took poisoner. So when you're crafting poison, you always succeed if you rolled a 10. That's what poisoner does.
Right.
But with expertise of poison, Jan is helpfully pointing out, you can spend cunning to when you make any move that falls within your area of expertise, such as searching for ingredients, after you roll, you may increase the result by 1 for each point of cunning you choose to spend. And
Oh
you
my
write,
God.
how much
You're
cunning,
right.
How much cunning do you have?
1.
Wait, hold on.
They've got more than that.
Oh, no. Because what level are you now?
2.
So you have 2 cunning.
Oh.
Because
Really?
it's your current level plus your intelligence modifier, and your intelligence modifier is
Oh, shoot. Okay. So so which one do you think makes more sense? Was Paiviki
actually-
helping or
Well, I guess if we stick with my original ruling, then Paiviki would not technically give you a +1. So then you rolled a 5, and then you could
Right.
spend a point of cunning. You could spend 2 points of cunning, because this is a case cunning. You can actually spend more than 1 at a time. So 2 points of cunning would get you to a 7, or a point of cunning and a point of luck. Cunning is very easy. Cunning is very easy to get back. All you have to do is brood in silence and plot your next move.
That's awesome. Well, then I think I should spend my cunning instead of my luck.
So you now
Great
have
point. Thank
0
you.
cunning, and that pops you up to 7. So you successfully gather. Geez, I guess how many doses of this? If you have the gear to collect this stuff, like I'm just gonna give you. You're gonna give. You roll a 1d4, and you get that many. You get enough ingredients to make that many doses of this poison.
Okay. Did we happen to figure that out for the lethal mushroom one that we did, or?
We just
I didn't write
decided
it
that you
down.
had enough for one dose,
Okay.
because that was pretty powerful stuff.
Okay. So I'll just roll for this one, and it's 2.
Okay,
So I
so
have 2 doses of
between the
luck.
kind of bag full of snails and the bundle of spine wort that you managed to gather, you have enough to, in the end, you'll be able to boil it all down and distill it, or not distill it, but boil it all down to 2 doses worth of this stuff. But first, you also have to deal with an incident. So even though you bumped up to a 7, there's still something going to happen.
That's fair. Thank you, Paiviki.
Yeah. You and your snails.
You're right. You're right.
Why are they so important? So it's going to come in handy, I'm sure.
Okay, Donna, would you please roll a D12?
Yes. And this is my incident.
Yeah.
6.
What gear are you carrying with you? Can you give me a quick rundown of the gear you have on you?
Candle, spear, water skin, shield rope, red cap, knife,
Okay.
herbs, poultices,
Okay.
book.
So you're down at the water, and you've got Paiviki's got your bundle of spine wort, and Paiviki is nervously looking out across, maybe not nervously, sorry, I don't mean to put that adverb in here, but Paiviki is surveying the river, looking upstream and down. At this point, the river is probably 30 or 40 yards across. And you sort of get down, and you, when Weirin goes into the water, do you are you wearing boots? Do you bare your legs to the knee in order to go into the water? Because you have to kind of get in there to get these snails. Or do you sort of wade in fully clothed?
Because they're in the bottom. I think I would at least take off my boots.
Okay.
These are nice boots.
Yeah, they are nice boots.
Oh, wait, do you have Notable,
They're notable footwear.
notable footwear.
Made by Costa the Cobbler.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
The
they're
famous.
boots. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take off your boots and you roll your whatever your trousers or whatever up above your knee and step into this mucky, just like the mud just goes, like almost sucks your leg in up to the knee, and you roll up your sleeves and you're down there, sort of. You know that these snails hang out on. They like to hang out on rocks in the muckiest water. So you're down there feeling around. For all that, and there's one, you find one and you have to take your knife and you can't just pull them off because the suction's so strong, you have to kind of like scrape them off. And you, elves have perfect balance. Elves have a featherlight step in perfect balance. There's no way you're gonna lose your balance, but you hear from upstream, and there's a sudden loud splash about 15 feet away on your left, and you jerk, you sort of jump alert and turn and look, and but as you did that, the rock fell back into place and you lost your grip on your knife. So now the knife is somewhere in this opaque, muddy water. You got this fist-sized, super smelly snail in your hand, but you've sort of lost your knife. You might be able to find it, but right now it's not in view, and the water is anything but clear.
Did you say that a giant boulder landed next to us?
No, there was just a big splash, and so there was the distant sound of the River King, and then some creature nearby reacted to that sound, and all you guys heard was a really loud splash. So there was just a moment where Paiviki was startled by the nearby splash, but it doesn't seem to be impending danger.
Okay.
I'll just get out of that river and not worry about the knife right now.
Okay, so you're gonna let it go. All right. You guys return to camp. Few people kind of Durbin just like covers his nose when he smells this. Well, I guess Muirin herself smells like the river now. And you got this dripping sack of snails there.
Oh, gross.
And the meat is being roasted over the fire. Spend the day. I wonder if, yeah. Okay, so time to make camp again.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of use in if I do get a chance to study a book like for a day, can I know there's like using a book to what do you call declare something. I can't remember what the move is.
Yeah.
You can also study a book for a time and learn something from it.
Yeah. Which book were you studying?
Phantoms and Warriors.
You can, that would fall, in this case, I'd say that would fall under Find Answers. When you seek more information that is readily apparent, which is to say, anything other than the title on the cover, you can roll intelligence to see if you can get anything out of that book. Anything significant.
So anything significant along the lines of Phantoms and Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to, in the course of your accompanying Muirin and sort of reading whenever you have spare time.
Yeah.
I guess what would your intent be in reading the book? Just to understand what it's about, to get an overview of what the contents are?
She's actually looking to figure out if she can learn magic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
So
perfect.
she's just really scanning the book to see if there's any juicy details.
Okay,
And if she can try out any incantations.
great. Yeah, why don't you roll intelligence to see what Paviki can glean from this?
Okay. So I rolled an 8 plus 2, so that's
Ooh,
10.
wow. Yeah, so this is a strange tale of it's, you can't really tell if it's like a an actual kind of folk tale or an attempt to record some actual historical event, but it seems to document a battle that occurred where the soldiers on the side of the author who wrote the book were fighting an enemy that was phantasmal, an enemy that was there but not there. So there's lots of poetic language about the way the enemy would, turn to smoke or mist or dissipate before a sword strike. And it's all, it has the feeling of a kind of, it's almost like a tragic philosophical treatise on the nature of the material and immaterial, perhaps communicated through this strange metaphor. There's no magic spells in it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a story. It's a pretty good read. I mean, I think Paiviki, it's very exotic and unusual relative to Paiviki's background. So there's some words that you don't understand, and there's references, just like cultural references that totally you can't figure out. But it is kind of it's kind of compelling in its way.
Right. So it might only have practical use if it actually is true, and we come up against phantasmal warriors.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So everybody needs to eat some more food. And then you guys can pass the night. And this time I'll have Paiviki roll.
This 2D?
Yep.
Plus nothing?
That's right.
4.
Oh, boy.
We're going to get stuck in the wilderness being attacked. We're going to run out of food. We're going to accumulate injuries.
Okay, here we go. Roll a d6, please.
And we'll accumulate poisons.
Yeah.
I rolled a 6.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, luckily for you guys, all you hear at night, you just hear the distant, the distant calls of the River King echoing through the valley. They don't grow nearer or louder. Does not cross the landscape to reach your campsite, but it awakens some of you. So I'm going to say everybody has to make a what would help you feel calm? Wisdom? I think wisdom, right? Or unless you can explain some other way that you'll try to deal with this anxiety produced by the presence of the River King.
Yeah, I don't know what stat you would account with, like, bravery.
I mean, wisdom is, willpower and all that. Tiny.
I think I could read to everybody from Phantoms and Warriors.
to try to calm them down.
Yeah, just like a bedtime story.
Okay.
And it's really, it's a really interesting story. It's cool how it's written, and we can just all contemplate adventure and be thankful that we're not battling phantasmal warriors.
Okay, sounds good. John, how does Taimi feel about that sound? Is it troubling at all, or is Taimi not bothered by it?
I mean, that's a tough one, because if we're saying, like, based on the stats, then yeah, I would be freaked out by it. But I think that she's exhilarated by the challenge, and wary. I don't think fear.
Yeah.
What she's feeling.
Okay, so maybe if she lies awake thinking about it, it's not out of fear, but maybe she's like thinking about just what this thing is, and
yeah, she's probably thinking like, okay, it's not getting any closer. It's probably keeping to the water. We haven't seen it leave the water. Like, let me try to like add that to the data. Like,
okay. So all three of you guys make a wisdom saving throw, and you get +1 because Paivik is reading this book to reassure you.
We all get +1?
Each of you gets +1, yeah. In addition to whatever your wisdom modifier is.
11.
11.
4.
Yeah, so John, describe how Taimi does not get a restful sleep that night.
Well, I mean, this was I guess 2 days ago. I think Taimi is still feeling. She still feels as if Annika challenged her courage, and like by backing down, she's like still dwelling on it, and so she's been like kind of single-mindedly thinking about like how she's going to get this River King and how she's going to like get this treasure and kind of like regain the honor that she felt like she left on the riverbank.
Oh, great.
So I think it's that. I think it's like some pacing, some like, really thinking about the noise. And, she's not intelligent, so it's taking a lot of willpower to be like, okay, well, like, maybe this would work. Like, what if the monster doesn't leave the river? So it's, just kind of restless thinking.
Running over all of the possible, in her mind, all the possible ways that, and it's almost like the River King's taunting you from a distance, right? So beautiful, clear skies, millions of stars in the sky, pretty cold, and you're hunkered down at one point, looking out, towards into the darkness towards the river there. So your call, you suffer a point of strength, dexterity, or constitution for not getting a restful night's sleep.
I will take the Constitution, because it won't lower my modifier.
Okay, great. In the morning, everybody packs up to go. Topias is very grateful for having had the rest, and you guys continue. Let's see. What? So at a good rate, Paiviki's trying to keep up as sort of as much of a marching pace as possible, given that she's carrying Topias, right?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about trying to make a crutch for Topias and see if that works at all. Like,
okay.
She's a carpenter, just kind of like get a good piece of wood and put something padded on the arm and just see if he can walk at all.
Okay, like to have done that during the day you guys took off?
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you got your axe. There's plentiful wood. You're a carpenter. You did it.
Right.
No die rolling necessary. How do you pad it? Not necessary to have padding, but I'm curious to think about how you would do that.
Yeah. trying to think if I have any soft material. Um, I'm thinking maybe I could take like a couple feet of rope and wrap it around the arm. Not particularly padded though. um,
It's not super necessary. I was just wondering if there was a.
yeah.
We can.
I mean, I guess she could take off her belt. She's got like a cloth belt that she wraps around, and so she could take that off and wrap it around and tie it like that. And then she would just kind of be more floppy looking. It's a fashion
awesome.
belt.
So he's got that. He's super grateful. I think if he could admire you more than he already does, he does. And at least in the grasslands, as you guys set off in the morning, he's able to like, keep up some of the pace on his own, and then occasionally he has to like put his arm around somebody or like you to like move along. But that's very, very much more helpful for him. Okay. Muirin, will you please roll for this day's journey? 2d6.
2d6.
And your dangerous territory, so that's +0.
Okay. And you can't add anything to it.
Nope. Well, you could add luck.
Oh, luck. Maybe I'll add luck to it because I rolled a 6. So. Is that a waste?
Yeah, you should know that if you roll a 6, you face a hazard. You don't know what it is, but if you bumped it up to a 7, you would make a discovery.
7 would be cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. So I'll knock it down to 10. Cool.
All right, and then roll 1d6.
5.
Okay. So you're you take a midday. Are you guys going to eat on the hoof or actually break for lunch? Like you might make more progress if you just pushed through lunch and ate as you were moving.
I think if Topias can do it, then that sounds good.
Okay. And okay, so you're there's a point where the grasslands gives way to more kind of wooded territory. Here the trees are dark. They have like a pale bark and dark leaves. And off to the right, you've noticed this over the course of the day. There's a sort of distant dark tree line that has gradually moved closer to you as you've continued downstream, and you reach a point where these trees are coming quite close to the river, and you have to avoid going through the woods. You end up on kind of a stretch of open land, rocky land between the woods and the muddy banks of the river. And there's a point where there's a tributary to the river, just like a kind of a spring. So it's actually a roaring brook. There's like a brook coming down from uphill. And on the far side of the brook, Muirin, because you're ahead, the brook is easy enough to cross. On the far side of it, you see it's like a hut made of piled up stones. And if each of you guys would roll a d12 for me real quick.
Did you say D12?
Yes. Okay, so that is 9. All right, here we go. Okay.
2.
And I'll ask you, let's see, Jan, what'd you get?
6.
And Donnie rolled a 2.
Yes.
And John, what'd you get?
An 8, Jason.
Okay, and the so it's a cylindrical sort of pile of stones. There appears to be a doorway facing, as you're facing it, it's across the brook, it's sort of on this hillside, and there's a doorway facing off to the left, and there is a roof made out of branches that has apparently fallen in. So it looks like a semi-abandoned or completely abandoned stone hut on the far side of the brook.
Check it out.
So Muiren's in the lead there. Muiren, are you gonna investigate, or what would be your approach here?
Yeah. Curious, but careful.
And then will you roll d12?
Yeah. 2.
And one more time.
6.
Okay. So you carefully cross the brook and, sort of peer from a distance up at the open doorway. And right at the, well, let me think here. So it's kind of overgrown, like the grass and stuff has grown up into the cracks of the stones. And there is light coming, because the roof is semi-collapsed, so there is light inside the thing. It looks like a one-room hut, and but you'd have to like go up and peer through the door to get a better idea of what's inside. So far, there doesn't seem to be anything dangerous.
Is there a way to more carefully inspect the danger, or?
Yeah. Of course, you can be very super cautious as you do that.
Okay, and then
I kind of whispered to Muiren, like you could climb the wall and peek in through the roof.
Okay.
Could I ask Durbin if this is something that was made by his people? Is this a style?
No, it's not.
Okay.
He doesn't. His people don't. He gestures, and you can from the way he's gesturing and trying to explain things, and Paiviki can fill you in. His people don't generally make circular structures.
Okay.
And it looks more like a human-sized doorway. Durbin's people are on the shorter side. So yeah, Muiren, did you want to follow Paiviki's advice or approach some other way?
I think I could do it carefully enough, following her advice.
Quietly climbing up. Okay.
To just peer.
Yeah, so it's not, you sort of, you move, and you've probably always been impressed, but you're very impressed by how quiet and graceful Muiren is, as she, you're standing on the far side of the brook still, and Muiren, just jumps on a rock in mid-brook, makes it to the other side, and then quickly moves up the slope of the hill to the wall, and you sort of gently test the wall to see how secure it is, and then you pull yourself up and high enough to sort of peer in through the broken branches that make up the roof, and the far side of the hut has been completely caved in. The stones are in like a heap, and the inside of the hut is completely overgrown with grass, so it's been in this condition for some time. And you see like half of a part of a human skull protruding from the dirt. It's like debris and rubble down in there, and that's the thing that really catches your attention, as you see the kind of hemisphere of a skull. And nothing else that you...
Okay. So no one living there currently.
No. Some voles kind of scamper away when you peer down into the hut.
And then, was there no opening from the sides? Is that why that seemed to...
Yeah, there was no window. There was just the door was the only way that you could see. But now that you've looked in, you see that the far wall, which you had not been able to see from your side, is collapsed. It broken inward.
Bashnik's hut.
Should we maybe I'll climb back down the way I came and then try to lead them to that opening that collapsed?
Okay, yeah, so everybody crosses the brook and you guys go around the far side. Yeah, so from where you are, like another 20 or 30 feet up the slope is where the thick woods begin. And it's pretty clear this hut's been not used for some time. And not so clear how or why the wall collapsed.
Because it's made of rock, right?
It's like it's just stacked field stone, so it's not, there's no mortar or anything like that. So it certainly could have just collapsed from if enough time had gone by and enough weather, it may have just collapsed naturally.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if the River King could have come after this person and taken a swipe at his hut, and that's what did him in.
He must be very territorial, if so.
It's true that you are about, you're only 50 yards from the banks of the river at this point.
Can we go and investigate and take a look inside?
Yeah. So Paviki, you want to look around in there?
Yeah.
Why don't you find answers? And you are studying the area. Is that fair?
Sure.
With intelligence?
Sure. That's 8. Plus intelligence is 10.
Okay. So searching around in there, you find evidence of, there's a broken wooden bucket. There is you actually find a copper ladle that's bent amongst the debris. And there's most of the bones have been eaten, but you find enough bone pieces, including this kind of skull, which when you unearth it is mostly it's only about half there. One of the arm bones you find was clearly shattered. So Paviki figures there must have been a violent death here, and that the collapse of the wall was not natural, that it was broken inward by some exterior force. And actually, hi Vicky, will you roll a d12 4 times?
9, 11, 11, 6.
And then a d12 one more time.
1.
Okay. You find a rusty iron knife. It's like a black, it's pretty crude, but it's usable. It's rusty, but not so rusty that it's useless. And a fishing net.
All right.
Whatever fiber it's made out of has not, like everything in here, it's not like ancient, but things have, you know, there may have been clothes and other things in here, but they've succumbed to rot and rodents. But there's this pretty durable fishing net, relatively small.
Oh yeah. Murin, here's a knife to replace your missing one. Do you want this?
Yes, I'll take that and clean it up. Thank you.
Yeah, so write that down in your gear. Iron knife.
And then I think I would have the skills to like somehow grease it or polish it or whatever.
Yeah, you're just gonna need some, the right kind of stones to sharpen that thing up.
Cool.
You need to scrape off the corrosion, and you should be able to clean it up just fine. Yeah, and there doesn't appear to be anything else of note here besides those things.
Okay. I guess I'll take them with me just in case.
The fishing net weighs, it's actually pretty light. It weighs 1.
Okay.
It's a small fishing net that you could, it's only a couple of yards, 3 yards across.
Okay. Well, looks like the fate of anybody who decides to try to dwell permanently near the River King's stomping grounds. Should we carry on?
Yeah, let's keep them moving.
I guess so.
Okay, so you continue on your way, and around as dusk is starting to fall, you reach a point where there's a pretty big. It's smaller than the main river that you've been following this whole time, which at this point, as I said before, was like 30 or 40 yards across. You reach a tributary river that spills down out of the mountains off to the right, not the mountains, out of the hills, out of this dark wood that has been all along the right as you've been moving south. And this tributary that you reach is only 20 or 30 feet across, but when you reach it, Durbin lights up, and he's very excited, and he calls it, he says the name of the stream in his people's language and says, he knows this place. In Venati, it's called the Boundary Stream. And all, he says, like, I guess Muirin and Paiviki can understand him. He says, when Saltwall children are, 10 or 11 years old, they're brought, they take an overnight camping trip, a several-day trip to this spot, and he points across the way, and you see that there's a sort of half pillar made of some kind of, it's like stones mixed together with earth. It's like a kind of marker. And he says the children in his village are brought to this spot, and they're all told the story of Bajnik, and how there is only one Bajnik, and only a foolish child would try to emulate Bajnik and go further north than the Boundary Stream.
Oh, yeah.
So he's very excited because he says that means Saltwall is only 2 days away.
Nice. Can I possibly add a retroactive detail?
Sure.
I was wondering if Paiviki could take the bones of this guy that we looted and lay them down under a auspicious looking tree in the woods while we're traveling along.
Yeah.
Since that's what we do.
Oh, right. That's what your people do. Bury people in the woods. Great. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a moment where you see a particularly old, pale barked tree and lay the bones among the roots.
Yeah.
Great. All right, another camp is made in this epic journey to the south. So everybody has to eat some food.
How are people doing?
Now I've got 2 left, one for me and one for Topias.
I just have 1 left.
Now you can go without food. You just anytime you go without food, you have to burn a point of strength, dexterity, or constitution. That's what happens when you go without food.
Does that mean that you could go a long time without food?
I mean, there's also, like, the fiction comes into play too, and it's not just you're losing ability, but like you suffer from the usual effects of hunger and dehydration.
Okay.
How much food does Moirin have?
I think I have 1, but if I was feeding Durbin, then 0.
Maybe it's time to do some more foraging, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I think I am at 0.
Or we could just push on, I suppose.
Now, Durbin says it's 2 days, but do we get a sense that it's going to take us 3 days with Topias' injury?
He's thanks to the day of rest that you took and Paiviki's care, you're making pretty good pace, and you guys have longer legs than the Venati. So it'd actually be shorter for you on average than them to travel this far. So at the rate you're going, it should be 2 days by your estimation, if Durbin is right.
So between us, for 6 people, we have 3 food. So we could either go split rations and take half a ration each for a couple days, or we could stop and do some more foraging. might be good to have some food just in case.
I would be okay with stopping to gather.
Okay.
Okay. So would that be spending another another day doing that?
Yeah.
Multiple hunting parties this time, or I think I'm gonna adjust up the foraging number to I think I'm gonna make it 1D. You think one person hunting? I think I'm gonna make it 1D4 plus 1.
And then the same thing if you have the hunting gear.
Yeah. So how many hunting parties are we talking? Foraging parties, I should say. It doesn't have to be meat that you bring back.
Yeah. We could do 2 maybe. Split into 2 groups. What is that?
Yeah.
That way, if anything
okay.
bad, if anything dangerous happens, we can help each other out.
Okay. So leave Durbin and Topias, and then have it be Anika, Taimi, and then same teams as yesterday.
Yeah, that
Okay.
works.
Yep.
Paviki and Muirin, would you guys do it stealthily with Dex, recalling useful knowledge with intelligence, or intuiting the best spots with wisdom?
I would think maybe intuiting the best spots, since we're in
That's how Miriam would do it for sure.
yeah, since we're in a different part of the land that we're used to.
And do you guys have what could be construed as gear for hunting or trapping or foraging, or any gear that would be helpful for you?
The fishing thing.
Got
The
it.
You
knife.
go fishing? You want to go fishing?
Does that count as foraging?
That's perfect. Yeah, no, totally. That's foraging is anything you do to get food.
Oh, okay.
That's great. You totally have that fishing net. That's gear that might be useful.
Is that okay to be near the brook or the river, Paviki?
So we're still close to the river, so we could fish in that river.
There's also this tributary that's coming down out of the hills. There's the big river.
We're past the boundary stream or whatever, the boundary
Well, that's
zone.
true. Yeah, we're
Okay.
past the boundary stream. We're all
Okay.
good.
Okay, great.
There's no way we can drown.
There's no way. That stone is totally, it's like a barrier. No,
The Venati seal of approval.
yeah, no Venati have ever died past this stone. The king doing.
Okay, Taimi.
Children up there.
Taimi with Anika. Make your roll at +4.
That's 12.
2D4 plus 2 rations.
4. Let's go. 1. So, but that's still 7 rations.
7, yeah. And then Fisher Folk. Donna, we roll. You get a total of +3 because of your wisdom plus Paviki.
Great. All right. Dropped one. That's big. 13.
All right. Same with you. 2D4 plus 2.
Okay.
Got a passel full, net full of fish.
Woo. So sorry, +1.
2D4 plus 2 is your total.
Oh, +2. Okay, 8.
All right, so everybody's going to eat well tonight.
Yes, we.
So all told, between the two of you, that's 15.
Wow.
Minus 6 for the night leaves you 8 for the next day, right? 8 left over.
9.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, 9. Yeah, math.
Do we want to each just take another 3 food?
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
that makes it easy.
Okay.
I mean, we're getting really close there because then I have 4 rations, and that'll last me and Anika the 2 days.
Yeah. I think we're good.
Um,
Have a fish fry.
yeah, there's good spirits with the fish, and Durbin is very excited because this is a fish he's very familiar with.
How does Durbin prepare it?
He searches around on the riverbank for a small green kind of clover-like herb, and he tears that apart and throws that in what was that? Jan, what was that? There's a passersby.
Little
There
paper
was-
cut guy.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, that's so great.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you fry the fish up, and he throws this tasty herb on there. It's a very, you fry it for just like a minute, and it's cooked through, like 4. They're just little fish, and he eats it bones and all. He just like chomps down and chews up the bones until he can swallow them. And the herb gives it like a slight bitter lemony kind of flavor. It's and everybody's in good spirits because it seems like if the marker be true, you're passing out of the realm of the River King. So roll to see how the night goes. Now you're in unsafe territory. It's no longer dangerous, so that's a +1 to the roll. Let's have Muirin roll this one.
All right. So 2d6 plus 1. Shoot. 6.
Okay.
Oh, can I have increased my cunning at some point back
Your
to
what?
the max?
Yeah. You've had plenty of
Restored.
time to do
Okay.
that. Go ahead and
Cool.
restore it. Yeah. Max. What? Here we go. 1d6, please, Donna.
Oh, 1.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna say Taimi is Taimi's on watch, and it's a clear night, just like last night, and you hear that there's the sound of the brook running, and it's starry. There's a moon out, and you're sort of staring down at the river, and the stars are reflected in the river, and then you're aware of this. You're still on the north side of this tributary, and the boundary marker is on the other side of from you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're suddenly aware of like a presence, and you turn and you look, and on the other side of the tributary, there is a roll 1d6 for me, please, John.
There's a 6.
There's a group of 7 quadrupedal creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And their eyes, the thing that catches your attention is their eyes must be like reflecting the moonlight somehow. they're each about the size of a small, I think it's about the size of a sheep, and they have some kind of carapace that kind of catches the light, and these sort of blunt heads, and they're just kind of standing very, very still on the opposite bank, looking in your direction. I guess that's the thing that really gets your attention.
Yeah.
Is they're looking towards you.
They're on the other bank.
That's right. Not of the really big river, of the smaller river. So
Yeah.
they're about 30 feet away from you.
Are they similar to anything I've seen before in the forest?
No. I'm looking around. I actually have a picture. I'm looking around. Scrambling through my... But you can go ahead and talk about what you're going to do. I'm just trying
if they're about the size of sheep, I mean, is it a clear enough night with enough moonlight or enough residual light from the fire that I can kind of see the details? Like, they have a carapace about them, but do they have, like, what are their, I mean, are they quadrupedal like a cat? Like they're a pouncing running creature, or are they quadrupedal like an herbivore?
So you sort of make your way down to the riverbank to get a closer look. Looking across the water, you're a safe distance away, as far as you know, and sort of peer at them, and they look like this.
Oh. A rock has no weak spots.
And then, one of them, you go down the river, one or two of them kind of amble, they sort of shuffle about, but they all sort of turn their gaze. Actually, they do that thing where they're looking, how their eyes are on the sides of their head, so they kind of look at you sideways, right? They stand sideways to you so they can look at you with one of their eyes.
Yeah.
That's how they stand.
I'm going to try to scare them off. I'm just going to take a rock and just like bang it against another rock and just like, you're like, galoo, galoo. and see what they do.
Galoo strikes fear into all animals.
Classic. What's the name of our village? Rainu?
So there's a moment where they kind of like, they do a nervous little lurch, when you first crack the stones together, they do a little, and they shuffle about. One of them turns the other way and looks at you with its other eye. And then one of them kind of like sort of jogs down to the riverside and stands looking at you one way and then turning and looking at you the other way. They don't seem scared, but they don't seem threatening.
Okay. I'm going to back up towards the party, keeping them in my sight and just keep extra watch on them, see what they do.
Okay. And kind of carry on with your watch.
Yeah.
And then it's time, so they just kind of continue some of them, they drink from the water a little bit. They continue in that general area, moving here and there, but clearly paying attention to your little campsite. And then I'm going to say you had the last watch, so dawn is breaking. And everybody's sort of rousing themselves. And they all wake up. And you all sort of get up, and everybody awakens and starts to have breakfast, and then but notices this small kind of clutch of creatures on the opposite bank.
They've been like that all night, just sitting there looking at me. I tried to scare them off. I didn't want to provoke them because I've never seen anything like it before. Their hide looks extraordinarily tough.
Annika says, really?
It looks like they're made of stone. If I had provoked them, they could have trampled us trampled you in your sleep.
When Durbin sees them, he says, he says their name in his language, and he's very happy. He feels like he calls it it's a blessing. It's a great thing to have drawn their attention. The word that in his language is blunthead is what they call these creatures, and he says that any that to have them pay attention to you is a sign from the gods that you are in good stead. So he feels very like it's auspicious that they're looking at you, that they're hanging out.
Yeah.
And he says they won't. He promises you that they're totally harmless. He says to people with true hearts, they will not. Such people will not come to harm. And my friends, what's that?
Oh, I'm not the most religious person, but I know that our village, there was a couple of creatures like the frog-headed deer that we like really valued and that we wouldn't kill. And I sense the same reverence when he's talking about it. Speaking of animals that I don't have reverence for,
that's the sound.
or when.
The frog-headed deer.
Yeah, they just sound like cats meowing miserably.
When Paviki hears the description of them, she starts to feel a little bit nervous that they're going to find her out, that they organized a mugging of her housemate, and just that she's generally, she thinks about how selfish she is and stuff like that. And that maybe the Bluntheads will find her out. So as they get close, if we get closer to them and walk past them, she's going to be kind of like on her guard.
Okay, great, yeah. So you guys are all packed up, and you sort of make your way across the rocky river, and as you come up the other shore, they do kind of part, continuing to kind of like stare at you, and they, occasionally they're dipping down to like chew the grass underfoot. And Paivika, as you climb the slope on the opposite side, you're looking at it, and there's one kind of right along, like kind of ambling alongside you, looking up at you with its one eye, chewing a mouthful of grass, and those thoughts are running through your head. And Durbin could not be just happier. He's like talking to himself and cheerful, and like looking at you and pointing out, like, there's that wildflower. He's on familiar ground, and he's super excited to be getting closer to home. And then you pass down. So they follow you they seem particularly interested in Tapias. There's a point where he has to take a break from walking on his crutch, and he pauses, and everybody else passes him, and Annika pauses, and he sort of waves her on. And then when you guys look back, all of the Bluntheads have stopped following you, and they're kind of gathered in a semicircle around him. And they're all just kind of like giving him the side eye, and he's kind of like chuckles. He's not nervous. He just kind of like laughs a little bit, and he pulls up he rips out a big hunk of grass and offers it, and one of them comes over and eats it out of his hand. And he kind of chuckles to himself and gets up and carries on. And then you guys make your way down. There's a rise, and then you make your way down to the main river. Durbin leads you down to the main river, and at this point, there's actually a little bit of a path in the grass. It's clearly there's a little bit of a furrow. And down at the main river, it's springtime. There is a ford where enough rocks have been added to the river bottom to actually make it shallow enough to cross to the far side, which Durbin says you're going to have to do in order to get to Saltwall. We have to cross the river at this point. But it is, because of all the spring runoff, it's actually pretty fast current and deeper than it would be ideally. You know, in another month, you know, it might be up to your knees. So right now it's crossing this current. It's like waist deep, and it's pretty strong.
Is this the best place to cross, though? Is it only going to get worse and deeper and harder to cross from here?
In Durbin's experience, this is the only place he has ever crossed, but he doesn't know the river so well that there might not be another place lower down. He just knows that this is, like, this ford is the one that the Venati use. He does say that the river just gets kind of, there may be shallower parts, but in general it gets deeper and wider the more downstream you go.
So we could tie ourselves together, do that old trick. We could lash some driftwood together and make a bit of a floaty raft or something like that to push ourselves across.
A flotation device, just in case anybody loses their footing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we could, yeah. I mean, if we made an actual raft, I don't know, to make a raft for 6 people might take a while.
Yeah, I think it would take a while.
So is the current really strong, like halfway through or something, or
It gets pretty strong. Enough of us strong, but it's strong enough where you have to pause and consider your next course of action, because you think Paiviki, big and strong, no problem. You know, Taimi is super dexterous, but not like substantial in terms physically, right? Am I right?
No, she's strong.
I mean, sorry. What about Taimi? Sorry, your mic's off, John.
She's slight.
Yeah. Annika is in pretty. So I guess Muirin is pretty light. So Paiviki and, I mean, Paiviki's the only one who could probably reliably get across. Everybody else, you know, Durbin is small. Tapias is hurt.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a detailed plan, but like some way, if this was where you wanted to cross.
Well, could we search around for some dry logs or something that we could make a flotation device with? You know, lash together a few logs for stability.
Yeah, absolutely. Driftwood. That's sort of, there's not a lot of trees in the area, so just get lucky. Paiviki.
10.
Okay. Yeah, there's a big bleached log that, you know, it must have been like high when there was a high flood. It must have been deposited on the shore. It's mostly dried out, and with your hatchet, you can take it apart into whatever kind of configuration you want for people to hang on to.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? We can chop up some chunks of log and then hang on to those while we could tie ourselves together too. So if anybody stumbles, we can pull them back to us.
I think the rope would help.
Yeah.
Maybe Paviki, you could lead as the strongest swimmer.
Okay. Who's got the rope?
I've got 50 feet.
All right. Let's do it.
Wait, so you're tying it around everybody's waist? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
And then what were you doing with the wood?
Just cutting a few floats. I think that
The people can like hang on to.
yeah, and I think that Topias would need a good one to hang on to, so that he could use that instead of a crutch.
I think he's gonna have to go on your back.
Huh.
Yeah, there's no way. Like the one-legged guy is not gonna be able to make it across the river.
Okay. All right.
It's gonna be a little Robin Hood, Little John.
Yeah.
Crossing the river.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay. So, good
Um,
plan.
I'm going to put my backpack on Topias's back so that it's up out of the water.
Okay. Great. Yeah, so we're gonna the weakest link here, I think, is probably Durbin is familiar with the river, so it's definitely not. I think the weakest link is Annika.
Yeah.
The elf is well traveled. Taimi is a hardy outdoor person. So we're gonna roll. John, you're gonna roll for Annika, and it's a straight up 2d6, no modifier.
Oof.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so Annika loses her footing, and so we're gonna say, let's see, real quick. We have Paviki in front, with Topias. Who would be second there? Who's bringing up the rear?
I guess probably like the second best suited person. Muirin, what's your strength?
Muirin's strength is 11. Donna, you're muted. So I'm actually, Taimi, your strength is 13.
Yeah,
So
I think I would be pulling up the rear.
Even though you're slight, you're okay. So we'll just say that Annika is in front of you. Durbin's in the middle, and then Muirin, you're second in line. Okay. So about midway across, Annika slips and into a deep. There's like a deep spot, and goes down up to her shoulders, and manages to hold on to her log, but her pack is up and floating, and she's totally loose. So she pulls on the rope. So this is between Taimi and Durbin. She's getting pulled with great force by the river. Taimi, what do you do?
I grab the rope and hold it with both hands. Where are we in the river? Like, how close am I to the shore?
You're like 15 yards from the shore you just left. No, okay. Sorry, the river's wider at this point. Yeah, 20. You're 20 yards out.
That's wide. This is a wide river.
It's a big river.
Yeah, no, you know what? I full on like kind of leap to try to stabilize her and like hold her so she can get her footing again.
So you, so there's tension on the rope, and then you jump towards her, seeking your own footing, and then you're trying to like grab her and pull her upright.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, boy, make a saving throw with strength, I think, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Resisting the current and
That's a 4 with
Yeah.
that's a 5.
so you mark strength. So you
Drop it.
dive forward and boosh into the water, and you get your arm, you get an arm around her, and you go leaning back, and you're searching for for footing, and then you slip, and now the two of you, you're both being pulled loose downstream, and now the rope is yanking on Durbin. So actually, at this point, it's Durbin, Weirin, and then Paiviki. It's basically the three of you trying to resist, trying to hold it all together. And I think since Paiviki is the strongest, Paiviki would make this roll, but Weirin is helping, right? Unless somebody else wants to do something else. That seems like the natural course of events. But unless there was some other plan, some other idea.
We'd be
I mean,
resisting.
I also have a.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking. I also had a bond that I could use if that helps too. But
A bond with.
You totally could, because right now,
Paiviki,
Is that in addition to the +1 for helping?
would that be a +2?
yep, that's exactly how bonds work.
Okay. So we would be resisting the river, trying to pull those guys back onto their feet.
Basically, the end result of this roll would be you successfully cross the river. You would stabilize. You'd haul them. Paiviki and Weirin would manage to like make it across the river, dragging them. Maybe they'd find some footing. So the successful roll here would get you all the way across.
All right, let's do it. Seems like we got a good chance. So I get my strength modifier +2.
That's correct.
So +3.
Wow.
Gonna woman this thing. All right, 6 + 3. So I got a dime.
You want to bump that to a 10 because there's a trade-off. There's a worse outcome, a hard bargain, or an ugly choice.
Right. I think in this case it might be good just to bump it, and I'll take a luck.
Okay.
Burn a luck.
So like Tiny Amy and Annika are like forced underwater. You guys are like gasping for air. You know those logs actually help, but Annika loses hers, and her backpack actually gets pulled off, and then Tiny reaches and grabs the backpack, which has food in it, and like manages to hold on that, and water is just like pouring over you guys, and then you feel that you're being moved towards the far shore, and Weirin and Durbin and Paiviki are all just like as with Paiviki in the lead, Weirin and Durbin are just like holding on with all their might. And in after a mighty struggle against the current, everybody ends up sputtering and wet on the far shore.
We couldn't have done it if Moirin hadn't been such a stalwart friend, and we hadn't gotten lucky. Probably there was like a branch or something that was floating in the stream, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's I think there's probably there's a big tree root sticking out of the other shore that Paiviki managed to lay her hand on,
Right.
And then haul yourself out there. So nothing lost, lots of, but everybody's soaking wet.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about bonds?
Yeah.
So Donna, Murren just helped Paiviki. Does that mean that she burns her bond?
She marks it.
She marks it, so she can't use it again?
She has to clear it to use it again. And you clear
Although
it.
I had 3, so
Yeah.
I marked 1.
You have
Okay.
3 bonds with Paiviki?
That's how it started at the beginning of the game, I thought.
Oh, did we establish that?
Because I have 3 circles next to Paiviki's name.
Okay.
Is that,
I
did I
don't
do
think
that right?
I don't think that's correct.
Okay.
I mean, you
well,
guys have been keeping company too, right? Like we have done it a couple times. I don't know if you improved that with Paiviki. I think
Well, but I think that you had 3 circles on your original sheet when we were still 0 level characters.
Okay,
So I think it probably should just be 1.
Okay.
that makes sense.
Because in your memory, Jan, there was just one time when you guys.
Yeah.
We'll just call it 1. So yeah,
That's
that
fair.
should be marked, and then when you keep company, you can clear that.
Cool.
The more bonds you have with somebody, so when you keep company, you add 1 for every to the roll for every bond that you have. So the stronger your connection with somebody, the easier it is to keep company, and the more likely you are to, right? It's like a reinforcement loop.
Oh, interesting.
After you establish contact. Yeah.
And when you like use a bond that's an empty circle, do you erase the circle or do you fill the circle? Like if I fill all 3, if I had 3 bonds with someone, would I still get the +3 to my roll even if all those circles are filled, or are they gone?
So the bonds start off essentially as like, when in the final character sheet, there'll be dotted circles, right? So when you make a bond with somebody, you draw the circle in an ink or whatever. You do a full circle, and then when you use the bond, you mark it. So if you had 3 of those bonds, you would mark all 3 of them for +3.
Yeah.
And then one of the outcomes of keep company is refresh all marked bonds. So you would actually, you could clear all 3 in one move, in one keep company. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you.
But
yeah, no, Taimi is like sputtering. Is Anika okay?
She's like pulls a fish out of her shirt and as like lying on the ground staring up, and then she turns and looks at you and just starts laughing, and throws off her backpack and like sort of grabs you and rolls around with you in the mud. And Durbin is like sitting up on the hillside with his hands on his knees, just like grinning from ear to ear.
I look past her to the 2 of you, and I mouth, "Thank you."
All right. The rest of that day you spend crossing beautiful open grassland covered with fields of wildflowers. Occasionally you see a group of blunt heads in the distance. And you settle down for what hopefully will be the last night's camp before you reach Saltwall. So everybody, you got food? Does everybody have food? Can everybody eat?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I guess, yeah, we already deducted the food we ate the night that the blunt heads got us, and then this is the day after that. Or not got us, but they found us. So yeah, so we're actually going to have food to spare when we get into Saltwall in case no one wants to serve us.
Right.
We have no idea.
Yeah. Who knows what it's like in Saltwall? Great. Okay. Speaking of which, and when you make camp, you do have the opportunity to keep company. If anybody wanted to do that, whenever that happens, you have that opportunity.
I think Taimi is too like ashamed. I feel like this trip has really beaten her down. Like her courage was called into question. She like went on the day when she was like hunting. She like hunted, but like still put us in the hole. Like we lost food through that whole day. And then like she couldn't save Anika from the river. I think she's really just pretty sullen.
Rough trip.
Yeah.
Once you get out of that home turf, things get a little difficult.
I think Paiviki would like to keep company with Topias, and she just wants to thank him for coming along, and she apologizes for treating him badly, loading him down with so much stuff, and she feels responsible for him falling. She should have been looking after him better.
Okay, let's see how that goes. Do you have any bonds with him already?
No.
Okay.
You just roll 2d6 or? 8.
Okay, so he is he sort of like shakes his head, and he of course it's not your fault. He can take care of himself, and if anything is to be learned here, it's a lesson to pay closer attention. And he basically says it's all on him, but he doesn't say it in like a he's not like down or glum about it. He just sort of like says, "Oh, Pivey, please don't trouble yourself. These have been the best days of my life. Like the pain I feel in my leg is a reminder that like I'm alive and I'm seeing things that I never imagined I would see. I can't believe you carried me across that river." It's that kind of thing. He's just very.
Yeah. I just know that I need to, if I'm going to take people along with me, I need to do a better job.
Well, we both maybe we both can learn from this. Great. So you can gain a bond with him, or he can gain one with you, whichever you choose.
I'll gain one with him.
Okay.
So that next time he gets into trouble, I can save him.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's a plan.
I liked what you did when Moiran saved Durbin with the extra bond that you had. I was like, oh yeah.
Look after the NPCs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see how this night goes. Now you are in. It's still unsafe, so it's not. Actually, no, you're in safe territory now, so you get +2 to this roll. And that is, let's have Jan roll that to see how the night goes.
I rolled an 8 + 2.
Sweet. The night passes without incident, and everyone gets restful sleep. In the morning, you can heal 1 + con points of hit points or ability points. So whoever's down, Constitution or whatnot, can heal. All right. So Tiny awakes feeling refreshed. And you guys. Oh, it's almost midnight. Well, this is good timing. So the rest of that day is spent in very good spirits, and around. So you take there's like everybody's feeling so good that you go ahead and take a break for lunch, and Durbin finds some special sweet grass that he insists that you try chewing. That's like so delicious, and he's just kind of gleefully happy. And then you everybody loads up again, and you start continuing on your way. And at this point, you're following a rough path along. At this point, the big river is now on your right, not your left, because you made that crossing.
Yeah.
And the shore has dropped, has grown higher and higher. So now there's essentially a cliff between you and the river. Like the river's now in a gorge, and it's bigger than it. So now, and this gorge is maybe the width of a football field, or 2 football fields. It's quite large. So occasionally you'll be within distance where you can look down and you can see the cliff on the far side. And the air smells different. There's something about the air that something sharper in the air that you've never smelled before. I think Muirin might have smelled this before, and Muirin recognizes it as the smell of the sea. And then a shout goes up from Durbin, and in the distance, you see a figure. What looks at first to the villagers of Rayuna as a four-legged. I mean, if you guys knew what centaurs were, you would think that that's what it was. But it's like a four-legged creature with a full torso and head on top of it, and it comes kind of galloping towards you. And then as it draws closer, you see that in fact it is a person, a Venati person, mounted on an animal that looks like this.
Oh,
Nice.
And Durbin runs up, and the person on goat back at first is like suspicious, and then sees who it is, and reins her mount to a stop, and plants her spear, uses when she sticks her spear in the ground and uses it as a kind of pivot to vault off of the goat. And then Durbin runs up, and she like embraces him with one arm and sort of claps him on the back, and he's very, very excited. And he calls her by name, and then she looks at you guys suspiciously, but he's like reassuring to her, and then introduces you to her as a member of. She's one of the riders from his village, who's out on patrol.
Wow.
So he's very happy for you to be reunited, and she escorts you into the village of Saltwall. Let's see if I can navigate that. Whoop, you guys all there?
Yeah.
See that? Okay, and I think we are. There's that. There it is.
Oh.
Oh, cool.
So you're approaching from the sort of directly under the tidal salt wall, that ridge back there. So you're coming from that direction. So you don't actually see this on your approach, right? But when we have at the end of this episode, when we have the drone shot of the village, this is what you see from the far side of that. And you guys are basically coming towards it from right around in here.
Super cool, man. I can't imagine to see the sea for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that change in the air is happening, and there's a point where Durbin, like back around the corner here, off to the left is where the river leads up that gorge, up around the corner. So there's a point where Durbin, gestures out towards the wide open waters, and the rider rides ahead to let everybody know what's happening, and a whole bunch of cheerful Venati folk are ready to greet you at the gate.
Oh. So the riders told them who we are.
Yeah, unless you didn't want her to.
No, it's fine.
I mean, as far as the writer knows, you're just the people who brought Durbin back, and he calls you friends. So there wouldn't be more information than that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll call it there.
Yeah, that seems like a good spot.
Okay. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah. Very cool.
I'm so excited that there's like a statue there.
Yeah.
Holding up like a big bowl or something.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to see that statue. I want to see the giant lean-to house there.
Oh, well, I hate to tell you. You recognize the architecture on that.
No! No! I was gonna ask. Damn it.
In fact, when you guys come through the gates, and I think that's probably the last shot, you come through the gates and everybody's happy, and there's a moment where Tiny's face falls. And you see that is under construction. Well, in fact, I think
Did you get
it's currently under construction.
Did you make enough moves?
Finish building it.
Yeah, exactly. Every time we roll a 6, you're just like, check. There's a beam up.
My little side project.
Oh, rats. Yeah, I felt like, oh, rats. All right.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get into the free people's territory.
Well, yeah. Well, you'll have to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
I feel less apprehension about starting shit here, though. I mean, like, I like Durban, but like the immediate repercussions on Reuna, like, definitely I think held me back from like just like spitting in whatever
Right.
the word. Like that held me back, but I'm not going to feel the same sort of restraint here.
Right, because they may not even know where you're from.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're from Blurba.
Yeah, you're like anonymous here. Well, I mean, you're humans in a Venati village, but you're relatively speaking, they won't know your home village.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously don't want them to like strike down the Venati, but I feel like my tongue will be a little bit looser. Or my actions. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wrap up real quick. Anybody fulfill an alignment goal? Not a lot of opportunity for that, but
No.
Oh, really?
okay. Anybody fulfill a trait?
I feel as if like being called out on my courage made me irritable. I couldn't sleep that one night.
Yeah, totally. Go for it. Love it.
I don't know. I don't think Paibiki was bold, covetous, or selfish, particularly.
But you solved a problem using physical force, getting us across the river.
Yeah, you get the fighter XP for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trade XP, I mean, was Paibiki really not bold? Because Paibiki's always at least bold.
Generally, but she's the one who talked Taimi out of going after the
Right.
the giant's treasure.
Yeah. That's great though. That's the way trades should work. They should be tempting to use, but then you have to resist using them because you want to do that. You want to do the smart thing. We're in. Did you? I forget. Oh, Ruthless is one of yours now, right? Focus. Sorry, your mic's off, Donna.
Right. I would say I was trying to be respectful of like Durban and Tapias when we decided not to go find the treasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Please give yourself
I can
a
mark
that.
Okay.
No problem solved with stealth or trickery. I mean, John, you get a point for fighter. I think you solved the problem with physical force when you just by hunting. The problem was you guys were low on food.
Oh.
The physical force of a bow through the belly of a.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
You're not going to take it.
No, I'll take it. I'll take it. I definitely solved the problem. I just don't know if I'd use like physical force to describe it, but like I would say that I solved the problem by being a fighter.
Right.
But I'll take it.
I wish I could get. I wish these moves could be mark XP if you acted like a fighter.
Yeah,
it's clear enough.
I mean, like I wouldn't want you to say like solve a problem using violence.
Right. It used to be that. And then I changed it because I wanted more general. I changed it because I remember that time. I think it was when we played our last game, Donna and Jan, and you guys were on that staircase, and somebody had to jump across the gap onto somebody else's shield.
Right.
Well, I think Donna, your character threw somebody across with your shield. Anyway, it was like a super awesome move, and I thought you should get XP for that. So, and that was sort of physical force. So I was trying to figure out a way to like reward that. Did you make an exciting discovery?
Yeah.
Discovered a number of things, including the River King, the legendary River King. Everybody gets an XP for that. Did you overcome a difficult obstacle? Absolutely. There was that river.
Yep.
Did you acquire some memorable booty?
Bent
Just
copper
the fishing
ladle.
net.
Oh yeah, those snails.
Oh, yep.
Hey, you know,
River snail.
I think between smelly snails and a bent copper ladle, that's memorable. Yeah, everybody gets an XP for it. Booty is a relative term.
True.
Okay. Any quick debrief? Anybody have anything they want to say? Plus or minus? I felt like, so I'm going to up the forage value. I'm also going to up the, I don't want it to get, I want wilderness exploration to feel substantial and like you really got somewhere, but I don't want it to be tedious in terms of like dealing with things every step of the way. So I'm trying to find some way to kind of reduce the, like I don't want bad rolls to be a constant threat, right?
Right.
Like right now, when you set out, you can roll bad. When you spend the night, you can roll bad, and those can each potentially derail things. And sometimes derailment is fine, but I guess I'm trying to find a balance of, like I might just up the modifiers for the safety of the region that you're in. You know, so
I wonder,
yeah,
if it would work to make it that if you roll particularly well, that you basically you get to go through like 2 days worth of land
of travel
without having to roll again, or something like that. That way, it seems like there should be a way that you can complete longer treks without having to go day by day by day.
Oh, well, you could just, I as judge could just say this next leg is 2 days or this next leg is 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
When you're crossing totally unknown, dangerous territory, I mean, I guess it's just a learning experience and figuring out the right vibe there. But in theory, it is, the wording of the moves is such that it doesn't have to be day by day. It could be multiple days at a time.
Oh, interesting. If we were to like turn right around and head back to Rayuna, like how would you handle that trip?
That's a great example. If you're going to go back the way you came, then basically you would sort of know the route, right?
Yeah.
And I could, for instance, say that every day you travel before, you'd roll for every 2 days of travel instead of every day. Like that would be one way to handle that. Once you're familiar with territory, to basically reduce the number of rolls you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you guys feel that? Were you fearing the bad rolls and what it might bring?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but we have resources to deal with that, right? Like Muirin has cunning. We all have luck, which is, I mean, cunning is cunning and bonds and metal and stuff like that. That's like, I think, resources that we have that we can spend to solve problems. Luck is, I think, a little more limited. But like, especially with cunning and metal, like that sort of stuff recharges, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have to spend it to avoid the bad rolls.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when Paiviki or Jan, mentioned, if we roll, if we all just separate and go get food and we run into something bad, I mean, it is true. We're still just level 1. They're in unknown territory. We could have just rolled up River King, we could have rolled up guy that throws the flaming hammers, like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we would feel more comfortable if we were like familiar enough with like the flora and fauna of a given region that we're like, okay, well, I mean, unless we roll up like roaming barbarian, we're not going to get anything that we can't at least comprehend.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other game we were playing, somebody went off foraging, an NPC went off foraging, and they didn't come back. And so then we all had to go looking for him.
Yeah.
And she had fallen and like twisted her ankle down at the bottom of a ravine or something.
Yeah.
And, it's just like one thing leads to another. And
That's right.
next thing you know, you're surrounded by orcs or whatever.
And I really like that. I just don't want it to be a common occurrence, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want those spirals to be able to happen, but to not have the risk be. It may be just like, if I just adjust the modifier from, the safe, unsafe, dangerous, and perilous. If I just up those all, that'll help across the board, make things go easier, but still allow for those disasters to happen.
I mean, I don't know if they need to be easier necessarily. They seemed, maybe, but they seemed pretty even. I think we rolled a couple of 4s.
Good.
And I mean, if you think about like an adventure story, like say The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings or something like that, they had to deal with things that would come up fairly frequently throughout, but they just spread it out to make it a bit more epic, so they didn't go day, the story didn't go day by day. It's more like week by week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of those bad rolls, Jason. Like, I'm not afraid that those dangers are there. I think it's maybe like a larger question, like how many of those bad rolls would you want to have happen in a trip?
Yeah.
Like ideally, because like right now there's nothing to stop us from having 15. Which, I mean, given the territory, could be totally make sense in like the narrative in the story. But I mean, I didn't see what we were going through as like particularly like, it's not like we were going through Mordor,
No. I mean, it was the realm of the River King, and that was, there.
Yeah.
It turns out. That's so great that you guys, because the river, yeah. It was just so, I love that, like, I had to figure out how much to prep. Like, I had to prep Saltwall because I knew that was your destination, and then after the River King came on the scene, I had to figure out how much to prep about him and his whole thing, because you guys talked about going to find treasure. So I did some, like, I figured some stuff out, and I just love that you chose not to do that. No, I mean, it wasn't like an enormous amount of labor, but like it was there. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing I like about this kind of open world campaign is that it's not like a plot driven thing I'm trying to make you guys do. It's dependent on your decisions, and that's what's really fun about it. Because I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, you might. Now we know that you're gonna be in Saltwall for a little while, so I could work out some more of those details. But like on the one hand, I was excited for you to go try to find the River King's treasure, but then when you decided not to, it was awesome. it was like being smart, trying to survive.
Yeah.
And it isn't really gone from. It might be harder to find, right? But we could potentially go back.
If it's just following the river, it's not going to be hard. I think it's just going to be a matter of like making a smart plan and maybe getting a couple of red shirts to come with us. I don't know, red tunics, red scarves. That lady that found us was wearing a red uniform. So,
Yep.
Hey, don't mess with the goat rider.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I really love the armored horn tips. Makes her look really no nonsense.
All right. Well, it's late.
Did we decide to meet next Friday?
Does that work for you, Donna? The 20th?
I believe it does. Yeah.
That we were gonna meet on the Wednesday, but I can't do the Wednesday. So,
yeah, the 20th works for me.
Yep. I
Okay.
booked it.
And then it's the Friday after that as well, the 27th.
Yeah.
Right.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
for entertaining.
Thank you.
And have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Fare you well.
Good night.